This is criminal monitoring by the United States government and the city of Ontario. Sirens start under the fake sun that's still right here over me, where the military were stalking by helicopter. And where the entity is stalking Southwest Airlines, which is the U.S. military as well, stalking by commercial planes, doing so at 5:50 p.m. These are the psychopaths that are going to be committed. You're listening to lawlessness in the face of being prosecuted. Michael Gherkin, American Medical Response, Mike Lorenz, Alan D. Waffner, the entity that's engaged in the criminal monitoring system, and this is all over a Google account. They're willing to go to federal prison and be committed over a Google account. This is the fake sun. This is mental illness. This is the blatant pattern of conduct. It is currently 5:50 p.m. The entity is monitoring on my device. That's the significance of this scientific phenomenon over this address. That's the phenomenon that it's over 215 E.C. Street, over me at 215 E.C. Street, in the same way it is at 9 o'clock, at 8 o'clock, at 7 o'clock, where the entity is rising it here, and it's still here, where you're looking at that pattern of stalking. The entity is keeping my device under surveillance, and my device is key in what is the prosecution of the U.S. military that's going to be prosecuted for treason. Right? And the entity is engaging what is surveillance on my device in concert with the people of the state. That's a demon that's stalking in the path. The significance of the engineer light. Conspicuous surveillance and furtherance of murdering right in my face. And this is what the U.S. military does with the population. The population of vagina monitors that are using fire trucks and ambulances and police vehicles right now, while they are, again, emulating an emergency. The emergency is that I'm prosecuting them, that I'm using my phone. That's why they are going to be federally prosecuted and subject to mental examinations. The mentally ill that are the demon possessed have no business in these positions. This is the prosecution of Paul Leon. The city hall is right here, where I'm showing you the fake sun, both in the morning and this is the evening at 5:51 p.m. Okay, the entity is engaged in what is monitoring on my device as I'm creating 2 more additional accounts, Google account number 282, Google account number 283, and as I turn this device on, the Android, the entity is immediately pursuant to what is hovering stalking conduct, pursuant to surveillance on all devices. You're under surveillance where you live, as you travel, everywhere that you go, and on the internet, including any devices that you use. That's what's relevant to what is criminal summoning, okay? And that is shown through the specific environment. And these are vagina monitors that are stalking in plain view. This is psychopathic conduct. They're driving out of Sarah's Regis, I'm going to prosecute. They're in the parking lot of Wells Fargo, I'm going to prosecute. This is at the Ontario Civic Center, the city of Ontario, that I'm going to prosecute. And they're gang stalking with regard to the city of Ontario sounding sirens, monitoring on my device, which directly impacts the ability to use the internet, unimpeded use of the internet, which you have a right to. The U.S. military that wants to murder you and keep your genitalia under surveillance doesn't have a legitimate government interest in doing that. That's the problem. And the government, the U.S. government, the city of Ontario, the people of the state are doing this in concert with those that are even outside of the United States right now, aware of what's going on my device right now, interested in blocking the creation of a Google account to maintain evidence to prosecute the U.S. government, the domestic terrorists, the people of the state, while they're sharing in this criminal pattern of conduct outside of the jurisdiction of the U.S. And that's how the demons in Ontario, sounding sirens, are being federally prosecuted for treason, which is directly impacting the prosecution of an entire entity. This is P.O.C. This is where Southwest Airlines was gang stalking. It was during the pattern of conduct where the entity is maintaining this light source, and they're doing so while they're keeping my device under surveillance. So, all right, this is Southwest Airlines that's gang stalking at the same location. It's 5:54 p.m. This is 3:57 p.m. This is what the entity was doing, monitoring me. This is Southwest Airlines. This is P.O.C. Southwest Airlines is engaged in what is targeting me. This is the morning at the Page One Cafe and the OVITT family. That's called Cross. Where the fake sun remains right now. That was 3:57, 4 p.m. It's 5:54. It's about to be 6 p.m. And it's at the same location over the same person. They're stalking right in front of your face. You are under surveillance by everyone, everywhere. And the criminal pattern of conduct, the federal prosecution of the U.S. government, sex offenders that are conspiring your murder, their prosecution is sure under the law which is not going to be based on their acknowledging you, them acting like the fact that they are demonstrating the fact that they don't care that they're going to prison, because that's what they're doing when they're laughing, coking, and joking like nothing is happening. They're going to be committed with that evidence. It is not evidence of innocence or ignorance. It's evidence of mental illness, of malice, of cruelty, inhumanity. The entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct, and this is what's going to prosecute you. The government that's stalking here is what's going to prosecute you. The entity, and they are in fact mentally ill anyway, but the entity is engaging in a whole manner of what is, if they all act like nothing is happening, this is what the government literally planned. Just like the homosexuals that are stalking in commercial planes, and they really thought that it was a good idea, and that's more discreet than the military jets. It is as obvious as stalking in a military jet when you have Southwest Airlines, UPS, American Airlines, United Airlines, all of the commercial companies flying over 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, any time of day where the airport does not maintain any flights, and you're flying literally over the old people. There are no planes and helicopters that are going to fly over senior citizen complex. This is the United States military. And you know why it's so unintelligent, why I'm able to easily embarrass and humiliate these demons, these vagina monitors? Because they typically murder the subject, the target. All right, this is what is out here betraying American citizens, and I am prosecuting it. And they are also making up shareholders, and they're making up what are boards, and they're making up what are company ownership, where they are I'm prosecuting the entire board, I'm prosecuting the shareholders, I'm prosecuting the owners while these corporate entities are engaging in the pattern of conduct. I'm prosecuting all of you at the same time. In the same way that your facial expression is not going to be a defense, it's not going to be relevant. It'll only be relevant with regard to the way in which you engaged in criminal activity that's already shown. This is P.O.C. That's the entity that's engaged in criminal summoning, and it's the prosecution of Paul Leon. Okay, the Ontario City Hall has the fake sun rising and setting outside of its doors. Paul Leon's a monitoring demon. He is an enemy of the state, and he is targeting with the U.S. military that's engaged in psychopathic and highly unintelligent criminal conduct. And this is the U.S. military that has threatened and betrayed American citizens, and they are not elite, they are not sophisticated, they are not the best and brightest whatsoever. They're demons, okay? And they're threatened by my Google account. This is the pattern of conduct. It is currently 5:57 p.m. This is the entity that's already been prosecuted for treason, and this is the entity that's engaged in that. That's United Airlines. And it's 5:57 p.m. The entities engaged in this, the Housing and College of Laverne, University of Laverne College of Law, they're not maintaining any sort of accredited basis. They're not going to be a law school. Paul Leon's not going to be in office. This is the Ontario Civic Center used for corruption. It's going to be defunded. This is going to turn into a very real ghetto. It's going to be gutted out, okay? The entity that wants to come outside and gang stalk someone, you don't have anything else to do. You're literally not going to have anything to do. They're going to be locked down regarding martial law. This is the pattern of conduct, and somebody's Google account is going to be the last thing on their minds with regard to the absence of any ability to do anything or go anywhere when they are isolated from the rest of the American public, like the animals they have shown themselves to be. Stalking conspicuously is what the United States military just did, and this is an act of war, and it's communicated to you, those of you who are witnessing. It's no small thing. This is how the entity, that is the U.S. government, considers your constitutional rights. This is how they consider you as a human being with God-given rights. This is how they treat the Constitution as something that you wipe up fecal matter with, while they are violating your rights while I'm documenting them targeting me. I hope you understand that. You are not just engaged in what is witnessing barbarism by a bunch of minions. You're witnessing what is a threat to the American public, and that threat is going to be neutralized. This is criminal surveillance, federal stalking under Title 18, Section 2261A, subsections 1 and 2. That's the significance of the supernatural environment and presence in that environment, which is accomplishing criminal monitoring. That's existing law. The entity is going to be prosecuted under ways in which the pattern of conduct by the demon-possessed U.S. military need to be recognized under federal law. This is P.O.C. All right, and this is the state in concert with the U.S. government monitoring. And it is the axiomatic removal of the domestic terrorist Paul Leon, the Ontario City Council, that are engaged in what are treason. This is P.O.C. All right, that's called psychopathic pacing under the fake sun. They're doing the same thing at 7 in the morning under this fake sun at this same address. And they are aiding in what are putting people just like Mickey in federal prison. Mickey's going to prison. You have the gang stalking Securitas, they're going to federal prison. The security guards that are stalking, wearing security, they're going to prison. The demons that are engaging in what are arriving in the morning, giving me a letter about how Sean Thrasher says that, lying about my character, he's going to prison. This is how unintelligent they are. And they do not care about you. They're suicidal. They don't care about themselves. They don't care about their co-defendants. And this is literally the implosion of the whole gang stalking system. This is why it does not pay to serve Satan. In fact, it costs you. It costs a lot. This is the P.O.C. It is currently 6 p.m. where the sun is documented rising right here at the same venue. Alrighty, this is what you are familiar with. This is the same Ontario Civic Center. This is the African-American female who's going to prison, gang stalking me with the U.S. military, using helicopters, terrorizing me, stalking and harassing me, and then wearing a security uniform that's maliciously targeting with the U.S. military that thinks that it has the people of the state covered as domestic terrorists that are cloaking themselves as merely employees. But the employee status is relevant to systematic monitoring, and that is federal prison. She's doing so, stalking under the fake sun at 6:10 p.m. It's currently 6:02 p.m. The entity is, and this is captured on May 6, 2026. It is May 7th in the morning at 7:05 a.m. where I'm using the gang stalkers of Securitas as an example, where the fake sun is rising and setting. This is where I'm at right now, where the fake sun is present at 7 a.m., where the U.S. military are showing you, which is very foolish conduct because they're going to be subject to mental examinations, as are the people of the state that are engaging what are utilizing minor children in the psychopathic pattern of conduct, the sexually violent pattern of conduct, the pattern of conduct with regard to what is murdering people and engaging in treason with those outside of the United States. This is what the people of the state are doing under a fake sun. The entity is engaging in this while I am showing you and reminding you about what is present at this venue. This is where you see the demon possessed under the age of majority. This is Exhibit A. They're gang stalking families, gang stalking minors, vagina monitors under the age of majority, stalking and trained in stalking and not looking at you, addressing you, nor do they have to. This is the evidence, okay? This is the entity's pattern of conduct. This is what demons practice. Oh, I'm not addressing you, and if I don't look like I'm stalking you, whatever that's supposed to look like, then you are mentally ill. That's the U.S. military. The homosexuals that are stalking in commercial airline companies, with commercial airline planes, flying over all the defendants that are going to be prosecuted, exposing everybody, and they're demons. They're unfit to be in the military. They're mentally ill. As are the people of the state, are fit to be isolated from the rest of the American public. That's where United Airlines just committed what are acts of treason right before your eyes. This is a threat to the American public, and this is all over my little old my Google account, just a little old Google account. You know why? Because of how probative, because of how explosive, how truthful the evidence that I'm showing you is. They're willing to go to prison because that's exactly where they're going. They're being committed. They're being put in mental institutions. They're being subject to martial law. They're willing to go through that because of a Google account. Michael Gherkin, Mike Lorenz, Alan D. Wapner, Jim Bowman, Julia Gu, Ronald Loveridge, all of those on the Ontario board, all of those on Otif El Khadi, the so-called CEO of the Ontario, those are all terrorists. They're being prosecuted. They're being federally prosecuted in concert with the corporate entities themselves, these companies. That is the entire city of Ontario. You are no mayor when you are looking at the evidence of the supernatural environment that is conducive to surveillance. Okay? Paul Leon's a sex offender, and he engages in sexual violence in ways in which you would never fathom, you could never imagine it, and that's why he does it with minor children. Okay? This is P.O.C. It is currently 6:05 p.m. That's federal stalking while the entity sounds sirens as I power on my device with regard to the demon possessed who admit to being inferior, who admit to fear regarding everything that I produce, which is informing you regarding paying attention to what it is that I am publishing on the internet, because Satan doesn't want you to see it. You're going to get it anyway, but Satan is very fearful of you receiving that information. This is P.O.C. It is currently 6:05 p.m.